Yeah, so Mint is awesome. And if you started in December, this is what I told you. So what we were looking at is my budget, right? That's my budgeted breakdown. And then to prove to you that it's real, because I wasn't going to go and recategorize everything on Mint. I
Gotcha.
just
Yeah.
wasn't. Um, I pulled what it was in December, 1700 is what I spent. And then 115 of that was like I went to go get a massage at Massage Envy. Then in November,
As a Christmas
I
present.
spent 2600, but there's 750 there because my AAA renewed and there was a Christmas present and other stuff. So I'm still close to the 1700 range. And then in October, we were lower. We were at like 1696 and I pulled out cash for who knows what. And if you go back to the personal P&L balance sheet and you do the math, I don't suggest you do it right now. I think my total allocated spending in that kind of, car, whatever, gym, etc., is pretty much like $1,700 a month or 1,750. And some months I'm over, some months I'm under, but it has to balance because of the way that if not, I'm incurring interest on my credit card, right?
Right. Totally.
That's kind of how I balance myself.
Totally. No, makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. Very
Yeah.
cool. And then yeah, and so all that said, again, you've had your cash stack, you've had a whole bunch of stuff that we've already gone through. We know exactly, your mentality, your how you're uh really digging into your long-term fire movement, right? And then you just got a house, all right? So let's talk about that and see like what that process was like and see how I'll go over here. I'll see like how did that decision come to be and what was that experience like?
Um, oh, okay, so we're at the balance sheet again.
Yeah, well, I just
What
stopped
were you
sharing the
at?
balance sheet to be honest. So I
Oh,
can share the
okay.
balance sheet if you'd like.
No, it's okay. Yeah, we're just chatting. You know better than I do, but
Yeah.
buying a house was oh, I didn't want to. I didn't want to buy a house.
Okay.
Um, but I had to. So,
Twist your arms, Yeah.
I mean, when a deal that good presents itself, you just kind of have to take it. Um, One, I didn't want to buy a house in South Florida because everything's overpriced just
Hmm.
for what it is. It's just overpriced. So I had my my low ball price point and square footage that I would settle for in Florida. And like I said, it was over Christmas break, right? We say Christmas break, my office closes during the last 2 weeks of December. And between Christmas and New Year's, it came up, got it, and I still haven't moved into it. So is
Yeah.
that the process you want to talk about since I
So
still don't live
so
there?
before we get to that, it's more like the process of going shopping rates with lenders and putting offers in on houses. I guess you kind of have a really interesting situation where you kind of got hooked up with a roommate who does real estate stuff, or a good friend at least, if what you've mentioned today. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, like what I assume that they've been able to help you out with a whole bunch of stuff. Like I had friends help me out a whole bunch when I first did my first thing. Tell me about that process and what was that like with you? Um, Having those conversations with the lenders, with the different like banks, and then obviously the back and forths with all the different contingencies coming up.
So, oh my God. All right, that process. One offer, we went back and forth a little bit because the timing was good and it was accepted. So I didn't really have to do the whole multiple places. Look, I knew what I
It was
wanted. I
the
knew what
one
I was willing
house.
to pay for it.
So you
It
got the
was the
only
one house.
house that you put the only offer in that you ever did.
Yeah.
Wow, good for you. That's awesome.
I realize that isn't normal now because everyone in this market, but yeah, it was just that's the house that I wanted and that's the house
That's awesome.
that,
Did you have a
yeah,
pre-approval letter before you like at the beginning?
no, that's where we got some help. So
Okay, yeah.
once we had that, once I knew I wanted the house, Ashley was like, okay, I have a lender that I can recommend you. And that lender was awesome. I sent him over my docs again. This is the period between Christmas and
Yeah.
New Year's. So on the 26th, I sent him over all the documents, and he was like, "Okay, looks good. Here's a pre-approval
And
letter. Let's
when you
get
say
this offer in."
docs, let's be really specific, like your life of, well, I guess for you, it's that again, all your bank accounts, all your W-2s, like all
Yeah.
the things, you know. For me, it's just such a hassle. I'm like, all right, 50,000 documents, and here for you.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, if you're not organized with them, it's definitely not the easiest thing. But for me, I just had a zip file. I was like, why is this so hard? Like I just, dragged them over and I was like, here you go. He was like, no one's ever responded that quickly. And I was like, sorry.
Yeah, I just have a lot of different
Um,
bank accounts with different banks and different accounts, and it's just a whole thing all the time. So that's my experience. Um, so yeah, totally.
the follow-ups were the worst part. So here we go. So we
Right.
got the pre-approval letter from the recommended lender from my roommate. Got the contract in, great. The rates are really low. It's December, but for some reason, the person that gave me the pre-approval wasn't coming down to kind of like a rate that Wells Fargo was showing. Worked with another person that didn't want to give me like a locked in rate for some reason.
Hmm.
So, I told them, I was like, no, I need a locked in rate for this amount. They send me the paperwork, and it's, if you're not looking closely, it's like one little check mark on the required disclosure that says like locked in rate, and then right
Yep.
below it, like not locked in rate. Um, so it says not locked in, and I emailed them back. I was like, nah, sorry, I need a locked in rate. Bye. But I took that offer to Wells Fargo, which is actually lower than the rate that Wells Fargo was offering. And I was like, hey, yo, can you guys match this? Even though it's not locked in, Wells Fargo does rate match, and they said, yeah. So because it was the same day, they matched it, 2.75% interest rate,
Beautiful.
um, cheaper than inflation. I mean, it's free money at this point, I think.
Yep.
So that was the negotiation process, and I'm talking about it like really chill now. I was not chill about this during it,
Yeah.
uh, at
Yeah,
all.
I mean it's a lot of back and forth, right? I mean, how many ultimate, like, so in total you had at least three different lenders you were talking to. The person that gave you the pre-approval letter, you have the Wells Fargo, which is your main primary bank, and then you had a third one. Yeah, five. You're muted on
So
my end. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
those are the three that I ended up talking to.
Okay.
But then I
Five.
also looked at like Rocket Mortgage, and then I think like
Yeah.
another one of those like the E firms that we're looking at. So
Quicken
five,
or something. Yeah.
yeah. And then something funny happened. So on top of that, those five, I checked with a sixth. So one of my friends posts their like, National Mortgage Lending Service ID and like a bunch of information about just being a mortgage broker, a loan officer. So I hit her up, and we started going through the process with her. And then all of a sudden she's like, oh, wait, like my firm already ran your credit. Turns out she's working at the same firm that my roommate recommended the other person to work with. So I didn't even know who I was working with at one point.
Nice.
Um, but I was trying everything I could to get that best rate. I had 2.75 in mind, and I wasn't going to accept anything higher.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, you definitely timed it really well. Right now, things are going back up a little bit at least. I don't know what it is today, what people would be getting today, but yeah, you killed it. And again, five lenders, like definitely. Um, I think it's probably recommended to at least get three. Um,
Mhm.
and so five is definitely a solid amount. But again, you have to have all your papers ready to go, submit the same process with all of them, and then it's like, you know, yeah, you have try to build up good rapport with the people who you're talking to, because ultimately they can then help you out and say, look, like, oh, even if it's just them saying that they're trying to give you a favor or like you do you a favor, it's just like you want them to try to vouch for you at the rest of their office, right? And so there's that kind of time on the phone. I spent like an hour with this lady on the phone previously, and ultimately she like couldn't help me, but it was like, hey, next time around, like we'll keep in touch. And it was just like still like a good
Yeah.
conversation, but it was definitely just like a lot of time that was spent. Um, but yeah, it's a totally a process. And then with the home itself, going through the inspections and going through the, I assume you had it like different contingencies going on with the actual purchase. But what was that process like? Did you have to negotiate at all with the price at that point too?
It wasn't gonna happen. So I negotiated from asking price down like $5,000. So I think they were asking, or maybe like 4,000. They were asking for 250, and I got it at 245. Um, it is the lowest price sale in the community in the past 6 months.
Nice.
And we went to go do the inspection, and we asked, right? There's no harm in asking. The AC unit came back as just bad, and the water heater was bad. So we asked, seeing what could happen, and the previous owner said, "I'll change the water heater for you, but I'm not doing anything else."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Okay, fair, thank you."
Yeah, it's something. It's something at
um,
that point.
yeah. So I knew I would have these issues, but to me, if you're buying a house, you're gonna have to do this stuff at some point anyway.
Yep.
Might as well be right when you move in, because that way you know who did the AC, you know what you're getting, you know what is being done, and you know that you have 10 years on it.
Yep.
So why not?
Totally. Totally. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then again, the vision for the house is long term, right? It's not like you're moving anytime anywhere anytime soon to like after this. And even if you go do like you're looking to hold long term. And tell me more of like from the decision to make the purchase, which was just because again you had that stack of cash that you're ready to do something with, to the long term vision for the house. Like uh what do you see this manifesting into ultimately as far as like your real estate endeavors? And have you already seen any appreciation on the value of the property in this crazy market? Like, is it kind of cool to see Zillow at this point, or are you kind of, is it the opposite? You know?
I think Zillow does weird stuff. I think you told me about this. Zillow knows kind of like what the sale price is.
Yeah.
So, but before it was posted, Zillow's estimate was like 260, which is way over what I paid for it. And then now they're like, oh no, it's only worth 247 because they know what it sold for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
so
Totally.
that's been kind of wild. But my dream is to have what you have one day.
With
Um,
the
yeah, just a place to rent out, passive income.
Yeah. Do you plan to house hack this at all? Do you have any vision
Yes.
to, yeah, so tell me more about that and maybe define house hacking in your words for the viewers and people listening.
Yeah, so I've been house hacking. I'm going to pay a mortgage and take on a roommate, right? Because why not? I think the idea originally was to buy like a multi-family unit, and that way you can have some separation and kind of house hack it that way. Multifamilies in South Florida, your money's better put in the stock market over the long term. So it's not, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
But it's a three-bedroom house. I can take on a roommate, have an office. If they have a dog, they can have a dog. Plenty of space, and that basically keeps my expenses right where the pie chart was.
Yeah.
Under $1,000 in Fort Lauderdale. This is how you do it.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, man. And yeah, that's beautiful. And then do you have any preconceived idea of like how long you're going to be living there yourself? Is this like a forever home kind of
I
thing, or
think
is this
break
good?
even period.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's why I asked.
Definitely not a
Totally.
forever home.
Totally.
um, definitely not a forever home, but I think my break even period's about 5 to 6 years, so at least that long. Um, because if not, I mean, I would have just been better off renting, right?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. The average loan I think breaks even around then too, right? That's usually the
Mhm.
kind of the thing. Totally. And then yeah, and then with is there any other conversation you want to have like around real estate and these discussions right now? Is there anything that we haven't discussed so far that, before I move on, that you wanted to talk more about?
Never
No.
pay contractors a deposit in cash. That's just my only advice I have
Do you
for
want to talk
anyone
about
out
that a
there
little bit more?
listening.
Because I wasn't gonna like dive deep into that just because, I it's not sorry to laugh, but I mean for everybody watching, I mean there's I mean, yeah, it's kind of unfiltered here if you want the like again, sometimes when you're renovating or doing work on a house, like again, there's some conversations, there's always that back and forth. And the good thing is though, I will say, right, like you're there, like you're able to be, you know, to understand who you're speaking with in person, physically boots on the ground, this is what's going on, and this work is
Yeah,
shitty or this work is, good enough. And yeah, if you want to talk a little bit about that, I'll definitely leave that up to you. To what level?
I'm, I could talk about it forever. I'll just look. If you don't know what you're doing in a renovation, at least look up a way to inspect it, because inspecting the job is easier than doing it yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
that's step one. I'll give you an example. I had tile installed. I wanted to know if the guy was doing a good job. YouTube said bounce a golf ball on it. It shouldn't sound hollow. If it does, get help fast. I go to my house, tile's getting installed. I drop the golf ball. It sounds like I hit a hollow log. Oh crap. So that was lesson number one, is learn how to inspect jobs. Then the tile situation turned into me being desperate to get floors installed. So then we can get, like the appliances delivered, and just keep the process moving. In which case, someone came in, they collected a deposit from me. It was through like Home Advisor or Angie's List. The app wasn't taking the payment because I intended to pay it with credit card. Next thing I know, they never show back up again, and I'm out $800. We're going through arbitration about it. The guy still is pretty, active with the situation. $800 is gone. I have no recourse. Angie's List isn't going to give it to me, or Home Advisor isn't going to give it to me. Should have paid in credit. The other thing, if you're going to do floors, just make sure you have plans to paint the house after, or you have some sort of cleaning budget, because there's dust on everything, on every nook and cranny. Um, and the last thing I'll say is get used to going to Home Depot. Home Depot is your friend.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to do simple things, just like put up fans in the rooms and like change one flush light to another flush light. Turns out you don't know when you open that flush light whether or not the right size screw was used for the fan that you're going to be putting in there. And I got lucky, but you don't know if the electrical box can even hold a fan. There's different types. I didn't know any of this. No one ever explained it. You don't learn it anywhere. It's the school of hard knocks, and that's it.